So now we are going to do another short composition on my hobbies. Each one of us, little girls and boys, we have something that interests us. Other than your learning subjects, English, math, science, social studies, Tamil, you have in you some desire to do some things different. For example, reading books. Sometimes the reading of story books is cultivated either in the house or in the school, but sometimes innately you want to read, you want to acquire knowledge, you want to know more stories. So you pick up some books that interest you and you read. And you go on reading and you go on adding books to your library and you call that your hobby. Somebody asks you, what's your hobby? My hobby is spending a lot of time books, reading a lot of books. Now that is one. Sometimes little girls, they will say, oh, I enjoy cooking. I want to help mummy. See what mummy is doing. So cooking, finding out how to cook, what to cook, how mummy make delicious food. Some little girls or boys will say, oh, I love plants. Maybe indoor plants or outside on the balcony or in the garden. You love growing different kinds of plants. It may be cactus, it may be flowering plant, anything, or it may be tiny herbs that you like to grow. So interest, something come from within. Some children will say, oh, I love collecting. Whoever gets letters say, please give me some stamps. And you sort it out according to the countries, different shapes of stamps. So that is one interest. Some children might say, I love to spend my time listening to good music. I love to spend my time singing. I'll ask mommy to put me in a singing class. So that is another hobby. Some children might say, I love collecting matchboxes. There are different types of matchboxes. Collecting something and storing, displaying nicely. So there are different kinds of hobbies children enjoy doing. This is what is in you, what you like to do, love to do without anybody helping you. So reading comes automatically to you, so you become a good reader. Hobby, music. Sometimes some children will like instrumental music. Some children just love to spend extra time dancing. So now today we are going to do a short composition on my hobby. Okay? You will like to write. Teacher will ask you, can you write about your hobby? Each one will be different. Write about your hobby in short, correct sentences. Okay? So what are the things you will bear in mind when you write about your hobby? What interests you? Why you do it? How much of time you spend for it? What joy you get out of it? And that is it. And it will be different from your sibling. If you have two sisters or two brothers in the house, they will not have the same hobbies, same interests, same love for something. So it will be different for each child, each person. Okay? So now we are going to do my hobby. Okay? Hobby is something that you love doing. So you will say, first of all you have to write, what is a hobby? So when you are writing a topic, when you wrote about myself, you wrote about what's your name, your age, your class. Here you are writing about hobby. So you must know, what is it? What is a hobby? A hobby is an activity that one does in one's spare time. Okay? What is a hobby? It's something that interests you, that you do it in your spare time. Instead of simply sitting and sleeping or stargazing, you go to do something useful, something interesting, something that give you joy, something that you can spend time on. So what is hobby? A hobby is the activity that one does, that one does in one's spare time, in one's spare time. It's very important. When you write the title, you must write a sentence or two about that. My hobby. What's a hobby? A hobby is the activity that one does in one's spare time. Okay? Then, what does the hobby bring you, give you? The hobby is the activity that brings joy when you do it. That's very important. When you work on a hobby, you find joy in it, and it should be happy and it should be interesting to you. There is no force from outside. Okay, so what do you do it in your spare time? It is an activity. It is, okay, it is an activity that brings joy, activity that brings joy and something, and is something that one finds interesting, that one finds interesting. So what is a hobby? Hobby is the activity that one does in one's spare time. What does it give you? What does the hobby give you? It is an activity that brings joy and is something that one finds interesting. Something that interesting and something that brings joy, and that is called the hobby. Okay? Now, what are the hobbies? So you first said what is a hobby. Next, what will you write? What are the different hobbies? What are the hobbies and what different children like to do? Okay. So then you will say, next thing that you are going to write about is gardening. Some of the hobbies are, you will say, some of the hobbies are, you just mention what are they. You can say gardening, flying kites. Some boys like to do flying kites. Yes, drawing, painting, good. Painting, then what else? Drawing, painting, collecting stamps, collecting stamp pictures, anything. When you say collecting, it can be press flower, press leaf, anything. Collecting stamps, you can say stamps, coins, very good. Coins, then what else? Music, okay, listening to music, Some children love just listening to music. Reading, some children just love to read. Reading, say, and dancing. And dancing. These are some of the hobbies, but you may have one particular one. What is it you love to do? Let's say gardening. My hobby is reading and gardening. Very good. So you said what is hobby? What are the different type of hobby? Now you talk about yourself. My hobbies are, what are your hobbies? My hobbies are gardening and reading. Reading and gardening. Reading. As a child, reading hobby is a very important thing. My hobbies are reading and gardening. So when do you do gardening? When do you do reading? That you must say. So at school, how do you utilize your spare time in a useful manner in school? Okay. So at school, I read interesting stories in my spare time. That's a school. Okay. At school, I do a lot of reading, in the library. So all schools, every school will have a library. So since reading is your hobby, what do? How do you spend your spare time at school? At school, I do a lot of reading in the library. Okay. Then I also bring home storybook to read. Storybooks. I also bring home storybooks to read. So that's one of your hobby. What is the next hobby? What do you do? When do you spend time for that? Some days the evening time is spent gardening. So what will you say? Gardening. I love gardening and I spend some evenings half an hour or 1 hour for it. So now you will say some evenings I do a little gardening. I love to look at flowers in my garden. So your interest is what? What type of gardening flowers? So I grow few flowers. I grow few flowers in my garden. I love to keep my garden beautiful. I love to keep my garden colorful. With what? I like to keep my garden colorful and beautiful. Colorful. Colorful with what? Flowers and beautiful. I get a lot of joy looking at my own flowers. I get a lot of joy in looking at my own flowers. My own flowers. as little girls and boys, the hobbies will go a long way to make you a beautiful girl or boy, because you are spending your extra time not simply talking or whiling away a time or looking at TV, which is not good, but here when you spend your time usefully, like reading, gardening, and you derive lot of joy in you, you'll grow into a lovely girl or boy. Okay, so gardening and reading, they're supposed to be one of the most beautiful hobbies that you can cultivate, so that your mind is there in the story you read. Your hands and your body and your mind is there looking at the flowers you grow, the different kinds, and that will soothe in your mind, calm your mind, and your learning studies will become very fruitful. So that's what we are doing. So, and what you get lot of joy. A lot of joy in what? In looking at my own flowers. Okay, so this is your hobby. Now, what is hobby? This is your hobby. What about your friend's hobby? My friends, they love. I have friends who, you can write about my friends. I have friends who love to sing and dance. What do? I also enjoy with my friends singing and looking at them enjoy dancing. So what do you do as a group with the friends? I also enjoy listening to their singing and dancing. So your friends have hobbies and you also enjoy, you also get a lot of joy and happiness looking at them, watching them, listening to them. They love to sing, so I also listen and enjoy with them. There are friends who love to dance. I look at them dance and I also enjoy a lot of pleasure looking at the dancing and listening to singing. So when the teacher gives you, write about your hobby. Oh, what do I write? First you write, what is a hobby? What are the different hobbies? What are your hobby? What is the specific hobby you will enjoy, you want to do? What are your friends' hobby? And that's how you will write, and you write in short sentences and you secure good marks. Now let's look at what we have done. My hobby. What is a hobby? A hobby is the activity that one does in one's spare time. So that's a hobby. Then this activity hobby, what does it bring you? It is an activity that brings joy and is something that one finds interesting to do, not forced. Then you write, what are some of the hobbies? Some of the hobbies are gardening, flying kites, drawing, painting, collecting stamps, collecting coins, listening to music, reading, dancing, cycling, I don't know, a lot of other things. So you narrate what are the different hobbies. Then you write about your own, my own hobby. My hobbies are reading and gardening. Okay, reading and gardening. At school, I do a lot of reading in the library. So where do you read? In the library, not during the class time when teacher is teaching. So I do a lot of reading in the library. I also bring home story books to read. You bring home something interesting from school, other than your textbook to read. Some evenings I do a little gardening, small garden, a tiny garden you have. So some evening, every evening you don't do your homework to do. I grow few flowers in my garden, few flowers, because you love flowers, very good. I love to keep my garden colorful. Colorful with what? With the little flowers, and beautiful, because the flowers are there, it looks colorful and beautiful. Remember, short sentences. I get lot of joy in looking at my own flowers. It's something that you feel within. When you read story, you feel lovely, the story you read. But when you grow flowers, you feel so joyful looking at your own creation. You grew flowers. Then, now you write about some of the hobbies of your friends or your siblings. I have friends who love to sing and dance. So your classmates, there are children, the girls and boys, some read, some sing, some dance. So now what do? I also enjoy listening to their singing, to the lovely voices, and dancing. So you look at them dancing and you enjoy, you listen to their music and you enjoy. Okay? Now that is it.